Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Homeschool Family Favorite Spotlight. Now, I want to give you a little bit of information about what you can expect to come. Over the next several days, 30 days or so, we're going to be telling you about some of the curriculums that were highlighted as Homeschool Family Favorites winners by talking to the authors and the creators and people who know about them very well. So this is a really cool thing that you're going to want to watch every day. And then we'll have them on our blog and other places so they're available long term. But today, for our very first one, I'm very excited to have Angela Odell, who is with Master Books. She's actually the author of Math for a Living Education, which was noted as one of the Homeschool Family Favorites in math for elementary school. And she's also authored America's Story and the World Story, although we're talking math today. So, Angela, welcome to the Homeschool Family Favorite Spotlight.
Thank you. I am really excited to be here.
Well, and the first one, no less.
No kidding, right? Whoa, I did not know that. That's a little nerve-wracking.
I know. Well, I just figured, we kick it off with a bang with Angela Odell, the one and only. Well, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself so that as we're, learning about your curriculum, we kind of know where you're coming from as creating this or as you're creating this.
Right. Okay. Well, I am a homeschool mom. I am actually wrapping up a 22-year journey.
Wow.
We have graduated we graduated our eldest 3, and then our youngest, our baby, is graduating in May. So
I know, I hear you.
I don't know what I feel about that yet. I'm processing.
We have our first daughter graduating in May, and it's like, I made it through the boys okay, and now I've got a daughter and I'm looking at everything differently. So, but I still have one more after her to graduate. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you have a little bit of time. It's such a gift. Yes. Time is such a gift, and it truly is a turnaround twice and it's over kind of thing. Yes. I have so many good memories of our journey, and it's definitely one of those things that it's going to take some time to let it go and move on to the next phase of my life. Now I have grandkids coming up, and I'm so thankful to hear that my girls are definitely planning on homeschooling their kids. So that has been thank you kind of thing for me. But so over the last about 11 years, oh my goodness, I really sounded Minnesotan right there. Yes, about the last 11 years or so, I have been working in the homeschool curriculum world, and it's been such an amazing journey. Just working with wonderful people who have mentored me and helped me in my personal life and in my professional life. It has just been an amazing journey. Sometimes feeling a little bit kind of like a runaway roller coaster, but for the most part, just absolutely amazing. And it's just definitely one of those life circumstances that I would have never dreamed about. God's ways are definitely not our ways. They're so much higher and so much bigger. So my connection with Master Books actually started about 6 years ago. And I had been working previously to release most of my math and my history through a previous publisher, and that kind of transitioned into self-publishing, and then Master Books came along, and I was very, very happy to join them because the company is they've always been one of my favorites. I just have loved their materials forever. So that has been just such a privilege and an honor to work with these people. They're just so cool. Well, you have a book published through them, don't you?
I do. It's not curriculum though.
Yeah, but it is awesome.
And they are precious, and the relationship that Master Books has with their moms, I think, is very indicative of the type of organization that it is. So the moms of Master Books has a life of its own, and I think that just kind of works its way all the way through the organization.
Yes, it really is for homeschoolers by homeschoolers. And I think that makes it very unique in the sense of a larger publishing business, because it really does listen, they have their ear to the heartbeat of what's going on in the world and what is, being talked about and what is needed in
Yep.
our present day.
Yep.
So,
Well, let's talk math a little bit,
yeah.
because that's what we're here to really digest today.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
math for a living education. At least I first became aware of it the very last year I had an elementary school child. So we used it for sixth
Oh,
grade
wow.
for Lila. But that's really as far as my knowledge of it goes, firsthand for using it.
Mhm.
So I am very eager to hear, why did you set it up the way that you did? What do the children, what does a day look like? Tell us about your curriculum.
Okay. Well, to begin with, it's really based on years of writing math for my own kids.
Okay.
So I have a son who has some language processing problems. And then my daughter, the one right underneath him, is extremely gifted and talented in art, but has a very difficult time with numbers. So I really was searching for something that would help her connect to her math learning. And so I started doing a lot of research. I took a lot of online courses about child development and how the brain works and how to get the hemispheres to communicate better. And the things that I learned really opened my eyes to the fact that so many math curriculums are really developmentally non-accessible to
Huh.
children's brains. And I'm not going to go into huge detail about how it all works, but I do want to just say, especially in those younger ages, a child's brain is primarily right brain, and it doesn't matter if they go on to be a left brain dominant person. At those younger ages, the right hemisphere is much more developed than the left. And the right hemisphere takes in this giant amount of information through the senses and makes this giant collage out of it and sends it over to the left. And the left hemisphere is just learning how to make a filing system to put all of this information into it. Well, if we're sending students this huge collage of bits and pieces and expecting them to make sense out of it and put it into context, it's not going to happen real well. So I have noticed that a lot of little children love to explore and to play and to internalize concepts through their senses and through playing. Well, I really wanted to use that as a way to get those math concepts in a whole picture way in through that right brain and teach them how to put it into that left by putting it into context. So it's never confusing. Why am I going to use this? This doesn't make sense. I mean, I like to put it this way. When we do a jigsaw puzzle, we prop the lid or wherever the picture is of the finished puzzle, we put it there so we can see what we're doing, right? And we go through the pieces and we organize and we instinctively know, okay, this piece, this looks like this right here. So we're just going to put that over here. And we organize the pieces that way. But we can see what it's supposed to look like. We don't ever just pick up a puzzle that's in a brown cardboard box, dump it out on the table and start trying to put this puzzle together without even knowing what we're trying to do. We know the context, right?
Absolutely.
So that's very much what I wanted to do with this. And it's a real, it's very interesting. I really prayed and I just said, okay, God, you are the ones that created these children like this. And you are the one that created us for relationship. So I really want to use relationships for the kids being able to see what they're doing and actually make a relationship with their education and say, I can do this and have this confidence that they can do it. So it's really it's a balance between science and relationships. It's right brain, whole fact and approach. And it's heart focused because I really believe that as parents, as Christian homeschool parents, our ultimate goal is to disciple our children for Christ. Well, I know that sounds really wacky talking about that where math is concerned, right? Because math is just sat over on this lonely shelf all by itself. And what does that have to do with God? But it does. It has everything to do with God. The laws of logic, the laws of math, the laws, all of those things are fashioned after his character. I actually wrote down a quote from Israel Wayne's book, Education, Does God Have an Opinion? I wanted to read that because this just encapsulates my whole feeling for math. Says, if Jesus were to release his sustaining power, even for a moment, our universe would fly apart in chaos. The only reason math works is because Jesus created it from his mind of order and precision. Randomness and chance never produce predictable consistency and accuracy. So if kids can see these math concepts from simple to very advanced, if they can see them as just like a little swath of God's character, I really believe that if we can teach our children who God is, if they can see God for who he really is, I mean, even if it's through a cloudy glass, but if they can see just a glimmer of who he is, they will know who they are.
Right.
And in every subject, including math.
Including math.
Including math.
So I love what you were saying there. We actually talked to our children all the way up through about the order of math and, how you can see God in that order. But how does that show up within your curriculum? How do you take, this is what I wanted to do, and this is how it looks? So what can a parent expect to see as they're working through this with their children?
Right. Well, one of the nice things about being a homeschooler is that I had access to a lot of different types of curriculum. So I would take parts that I thought were really good and worked well, like Charlotte Mason. There are many, many elements of her method that work so well.
Yes.
And so I was able to bring out some of those elements like copy work, oral narration, hands-on lessons, and very short lessons. That was another really big thing, is I wanted to work with the attention of the child and not teach them to turn their brain off, right? To teach them engage, do everything, do all of your attention, just really, like I used to say to my kids, act like your brain is a laser, And so doing that, and also just I don't really even know how to put it. My math is so weird, I can't even explain it. So unique. But no, it's like the braiding of character, showing them who God is, encouraging them to model their lives after him, showing them how the math concepts work in through that. And so every day, the child is given a lesson that teaches them to engage. That would be number one. Teaches them to form a relationship with their learning, with their parent, and with God. Relationship is like foundational for everything. And that is in all of the story elements. I really was very careful to bring in godly character building into the stories. A lot of people are just like, why in the world do you put stories into your math book?
Well, and I was actually going to, if you'll explain that, because for someone who hasn't seen your book, they may be thinking story problems or kind of what they're used to seeing. So tell us a little bit about what those are as you're explaining why you did it.
Okay, so each in the first through fifth level, each week has a story segment, and story problems do pull from that, a lot of it, but each segment builds on the last one, and it's an actual story, and it's an actual story of a family it could be anyone's family. I tried to make the kids they behave well, but hopefully I didn't make them like little sissy goody two shoes, kind of thing, because kids
have to be relatable, right?
Right. They have to be relatable. Yep. And also I wanted them to, the child who is doing the math, to create a relationship with the children in the story and think, well, if they can do this, then I can do it. And like, let's say Charlie saw that pattern. I wonder what patterns I can see, And so, and
Yeah.
just knowing how a child's brain works and how they relate to it. And I know it works because I get a lot of emails from kids asking me about, they really think that these kids are real in the story. And I'm like, yeah, a lot of the things that I put into the story actually did happen in real life, but it's kind of a version of my real story here. But yes, it's been a funny journey. I'll just put it that way. I really didn't expect these kids to grab a hold of these story characters as much as they have. And even some of the moms, they're like, "Why you make me cry in math?" I'm like, "I'm sorry."
Well, but what you've done and what's really cool is you've taken math, which is not generally the cuddle up on the couch type of a subject. You don't look at it's more of the tears and weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth, and you have given that cuddle up on the couch element. And I think that that's what you're seeing through those deep engagements with those characters is that's coming out of actually enjoying the story so much as a family. So yeah, that's a neat part of it.
Right. And so I look at it like God didn't say in Deuteronomy 6, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, except where it comes to math, just grin and bear it. He didn't say that. It's not, that's our own interpretation of it. And I really believe that it teaches our kids the way we teach them concepts, teaches them to see the world around them through that, the way we teach them. Does that make sense? I mean, it's like this whole brain chatter that comes in when they're convinced that they're bad at something. And I deal a lot with parents who are still dealing with that negative brain chatter, and it's turned into, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if my kids are bad at math like I am. I'm like, you're not bad at math either. You might not feel like you're confident in it, but you're not bad in it. Right. So that's where you need to start.
Yeah. Well, and I also, one of the things that I noticed about your books as I flipped through them, and then the ones that I used with Lila, there is a lot of clean area. There's a lot of white there. Yes. So what was the thought behind that?
It's years and years and years of having to cross out problems, copy problems onto a clean piece of paper so my child wouldn't get overwhelmed and shut down. Yeah. And there's just something that just this negative, Randy Pratt calls it bad brain math, where you just go into this negative, I have to get through this. I don't like doing this, this kind of thing. And that white space is reassuring. It says, I have room to work. I have room to write the size that I usually write. I don't have so many problems that I can't do this. I can do this. I instead of having 20 addition problems, I have 5. Instead of having 20 more problems of subtraction, I have 2, and it says right here, if I'm really good at this today, I don't have to do these 2. These are extra practice. So, but also having, we're developing the Practice Makes Perfect supplements for each of the levels, and 1 through 3 is already out. And I have seen a great response to that because there are students who love to do more problems. I want more, Mom, this kind of thing.
I didn't have those students.
Me neither. That is a totally foreign concept to me personally. Exactly. But I know that they're out there because I've had children write to me and say, Mrs. O'Neill, will you write more? Will you write more problems? And I'm like, wow. Sure, honey, here you go. So having that as a backup where it doesn't have to be done. But if you do have one of those ravenous math children, you can say, okay, sure, here's another thing that you can do. Here's another, game that you can play. You guys want to do something together? Here, there's a game that you can play right here, and you can practice your multiplication or something through it. So it's been a kind of a fun thing to see that, because I really do want every family to be able to use it the way they need to.
Right, right.
So,
Well, and then one of the elements that I remember about the curriculum that I don't think I've heard you comment on so far is the teaching back part. Because I remember Lila with, if not every lesson, most of them, she was tasked with teaching me the concept. So when does that start at the beginning? Does that start
yes.
later? And why would you include that in all of your lessons?
Well, oral narration, and quite honestly, I've had people write me emails rather upset that I would say that this is Charlotte Mason approach math, because Charlotte Mason, as we know, did not approach math the way I do. But however, she did use oral narration and, like, as you say, the teaching back, the telling back. You notice that if you know something well enough to explain it to someone else,
Yeah.
then you know it much better than if you were just filling in a blank to get a grade. And that is something that I have really had to go to bat with some people, because they don't understand that. Well, if they can write it, then they know it. No, not necessarily. Even the placement tests that are available at Masterbooks for this, and I'm just going to say this as a side note, if you just jump into this series from any other curriculum, you need to go take the placement test. So the placement tests are even done differently than most placement tests. Most placement tests are like, set your child at this table and don't talk to them and let them do it and go as far as they can. Well, that's fine, but that doesn't really tell me what that child knows. So I'm like, no, you take as long as you need to do this and have them tell it back to you and show them why, have them show you why they're doing what they're doing, using manipulatives and, being able to write it out. So I have had so many parents who have emailed me and said, I thought my child was so good at math and they were just going to race right through this level of this book and just go right on into the other one. But I actually had to put them back a level because they didn't know why they were doing what they were doing. And I was like, yep, that's just the way our brains work. They need to be able to process it and to be able to explain it. So that is one of the big reasons why I do that oral narration. I have found from personal experience, and it uses a completely different part of the brain than just filling it in. So it's
and I'll weigh in just as a mom, a veteran homeschool mom as well. That was actually one of the elements of this particular curriculum that I appreciated the most, because I was able to see better that how she was getting the concepts, because I have one of my kids in particular that didn't go through. He's my oldest. He does terrible on paper. He can tell you and explain to you anything. And he's gotten over that largely. He's in college now. And so he's kind of grown through that. But that would have been a great assessor for me, for him in particular, back when he was in elementary school. And I would talk to him about something and he had a concept, and then you put it on paper and it's like, it didn't work the same. And so to give you the freedom of really assessing their knowledge level in that way was a part of this that I really appreciated. So
that's good. Yeah, that was a big thing for me too. It's a really, really big thing.
Well, what would you tell parents who are just coming into math for a living education? You mentioned the placement tests, but I would imagine that you have some questions about, is there enough here? Is that, I can just hear some of the questions that I'll bet you get all the time. So what would you say to a new parent coming in looking at this curriculum?
Well, the first thing I would say, I highly recommend them getting the teaching companion. I put that together. It's been almost 2 years now that I wrote that. Time goes by so fast.
It does.
Oh my goodness. So what I did is, Masterbooks came to me and was like, I really think that like a teaching companion, kind of like what they did for the Writing Strands curriculum, just an overall helpful tool, like everything that you can imagine that anybody would need to know. So I was able to put together this resource that it turned out so well. I'm so happy with the way this one turned out. It's not a real big book, but it it is such a comprehensive resource for
Wow.
anyone who is just starting using this. Well, and even those who have used it realize, I've had several moms be like, I took 2 kids all the way through this, and I'm bringing in my third one, and I'm realizing that I did not get why you were doing these things.
Yeah.
So it's a really good resource to have. There's tons of teaching tips in it for a lot of potentially sticky concepts that are kind of hard to teach or to feel confident in your teaching. One of those is place value. I get so many questions. I should say I used to get so many questions about place value, and a parent saying, "Oh, my student just got it so well. They just got it," and I email back and say, "They got it now." That doesn't mean that it's always going to be there. Be patient. It's one of those concepts that you just have to keep building on top of and building on top of. And it might click one day and not the next, but it's okay. That's part of the learning process, is kind of getting lost. You have to be able to embrace getting lost a little bit, because that means that you're outside of your already known knowledge of where you're comfortable. Feeling lost is part of the educational process, the learning process. So go ahead and get lost. It's okay for a while. Don't stay lost. But here's a tip to come out of that lost feeling. But so it's just kind of it's just a really good resource to have on hand. And there's a lot of just information I felt was very helpful in the sense of just encouraging moms and dads. There's lots of dads who do this too. And just saying, it's okay. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is your child's education going to happen that way. And just, commit to that process and be okay with just going with it. And a lot of what I say in there could just be boiled down to embrace the process and just enjoy the journey. Don't compare yourself to other people. I mean, it's just such a huge trap. That comparison trap is so huge.
Yeah.
So be okay with it looking unique, because your family is unique. So yeah, but that's definitely the number one thing that I recommend. Get the teaching companion.
Oh, absolutely. And just kind of to bookend our conversation here, we started with the fact that our families are growing, and these days in elementary math pass in the blink of an eye. And that's really what she was alluding to there. Enjoy these moments.
Yes.
Don't allow any of these subjects to be something that you guys all dread. Find a resource that is going to make it enjoyable and bonding rather than a friction point for you.
Yes.
So, well, Angela, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can people connect with you going forward?
Well, the best place to go is just my website, which is angelaodell.com. I am starting a new private, secure platform, community, where I just really encourage everyone. There's a link to it in the top menu of my website. It's called Mighty Networks. And so I am really trying to get away from Facebook as much as possible. I'm going to be pretty much wrapping things up there, not putting really anything new there, and encouraging. There are several groups that are connected to my Facebook page, and there are, a couple thousand people in those. So I really can't just shut them down, but I'm really encouraging people to make their way over to that secure private platform where people can talk and communicate and ask questions. I even have a teen group in there, a kids group in there. Everybody who knows me personally knows that I love teens. They're like my jam. I just love
I
teens.
am too. That's my favorite time of life.
Yes.
We've had so much fun parenting teens and having them all in our house all the time. Lots and lots.
Yes. I teach a class of 24 teenagers, logic and leadership. And it is so fun and so crazy. We have so much fun in that class. But we do have, in that private group, there's a place for people to talk about the different curriculum I've written, just get advice on homeschooling and parenting, not just from me, from everybody that is there. And I just really highly encourage people to go there. And that is just through my website. So that's one of my big things. I'm really trying to step away from the other social
Yeah.
media platforms. I don't like them.
Right. We've actually done the same. We have launched our own app that has discussion groups, very private. If you're a 365 member, you can access all of the, even more than non 365 members
Right.
can. But again, we're shutting down our Facebook groups one by one and
Yep.
migrating over to our app because it's safe and the drama and the distraction just kind of goes away. And it's glorious.
Isn't it wonderful? It's
It
almost,
is.
yeah, it's almost reminiscent to the old Yahoo groups.
I know.
Where
I
we
know.
would just get together and chat, and there were squabbles and whatever, but there wasn't the drama and the arguing that I just really feel like the Facebook, the whole culture that has been created around that is so divisive and it's so exhausting. I just don't even want to do it anymore.
Well,
So,
and
but
for a mom, there's also not the holes that you can fall, the black holes that you can just fall
right,
in and realize you've wasted an hour and a
so
half
much time.
scrolling through. Rather, with these private groups and these very intentional gathering places,
Mhm.
you get your encouragement, you get your answers, but you're not going to fall into a
Right,
situation where you find that you've pushed your kids aside for an hour and a half and you feel guilty about it.
right.
So I definitely encourage you guys to check out Angela's website. We will link to it with the show notes here. Check out her Mighty Network. Also, download our app, get in the discussion groups there, but really find a place where you can be with like-minded people and get those questions answered, but not waste an awful lot of time or give your data out to everyone
Right.
here, there, and yonder. So, well, Angela, thank you so much
Absolutely.
again for joining us today.
Thank you. This has
And for
been fun.
everybody else, I hope that you guys have enjoyed our first edition of the Homeschool Family Favorite Spotlight. We will be back every weekday in the coming days to highlight more authors and brands and resources for your family. So stay tuned for even more. I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow.